Montgomery County 911, where's your emergency?
203 South Madison Street,
In what town?
Darlington.
Hey, what's going on there?
In this video, we look at the darker side to one of Reddit's more popular subs, called Our Relationship Advice. If there are any Reddit users listening, it is likely a sub many of you have heard of. On the surface, Our Relationship Advice is a fairly innocent sub. However, a particular post on the sub would go down to make news headlines for all the wrong reasons. The post on the sub we're going to be looking at is a post made by Reddit user Jasoninhell, published on the 28th of October 2016. Jason is having some issues with his wife of 6 years and suspects she may be sleeping with his neighbour behind his back. While this would certainly come as a shocking revelation to any, this was considered a fairly average post on the sub at the time. I'll read a segment of the first post to give you an idea. Time goes on. Her phone is still password protected, and things don't feel right. I see her using her phone and smiling to herself more and more often. But when I ask her what she is doing, she says nothing and puts her phone away. So one morning, I wait for her to get in the shower and I grab her phone before it requires the password. I go through her messages and find that she is texting the neighbour. I'm all covered in frosting, you want to lick it off? There were no other messages to the neighbour, but I found out later that was because she had set up her phone to delete messages after a certain amount of time. I felt uncomfortable with it, but I knew she had a perverted sense of humour, and I thought that she would never do anything to hurt me. I think you can all see what is coming next. Relationships are like that, and the term love is blind can be taken quite literally. This is not the first time Jason's partner has cheated on him. So what? He finds out and finally dumps her, and that's the end of it, right? Right? Fast forward to July, and at this point the paranoia is driving me nuts. So I tell her that I need to install a new antivirus on her phone. While she has it unlocked for me, I install anti-theft software so I can remotely turn the GPS back on and set up AT&T message backup and restore so I can read all of her text messages from that point on my computer. The next day, my mother asked to spend time with my 2 kids, so my wife drops them off with her and has the day to herself. I watch my wife's activity from work as she spends the day trying to meet up with the neighbour, but is unsuccessful because he is busy at work. That night, we get the kids back from my mum's house and we go out to dinner with the neighbour, his girlfriend and his son. My wife and his girlfriend are having a good time drinking, laughing and just joking around. His girlfriend mentions that she would like to see Magic Mike XXL. I say it's a good idea and I'll watch the kids so my wife and her can go. So my wife and her go, and the neighbour and I go back to my house so the kids can play video games together. The kids are back in my son's room playing games, and the neighbour is sitting across from me on the other couch. It is at this point that my wife starts texting him. She is describing sex acts she would like to perform with him, and he is reciprocating. She tells him to check his Snapchat, and at the same time, I get a Snapchat from her too. And it's of her fingering herself in a bathroom stall. They keep talking, trying to figure out when they can meet up and have sex. They decide on Monday morning after I go to work. So, in my head, I'd already planned to pretend to leave and circle back to catch them. But then, they tell each other that they love each other, and it is all I can do to not leap off the couch and knock him out. But I contain myself and continue reading the conversation unfolding in front of me. "You're my girl now." To which she replies, "Always have been," ending with him writing, "and always will be." My wife and the neighbour's girlfriend return from the movie, and I ask them politely to sit down. I then ask the kids to stay in my son's room and shut the door. I return to the living room and confront my wife and the neighbour. I say, "So, you two love each other, huh?" My wife goes into full-blown denial mode and the neighbour's girlfriend starts smacking him. I ask my wife if she's been texting him. She says no, so I show her the text messages. She admits to it, but says it was the first time it had gone that far. I ask my wife if she has sent him pictures. She says no, so I show her the picture. She admits it, but says it was the first time. Because I didn't wait to catch them having sex together, I didn't have evidence to prove her wrong, so that one stayed unresolved. I tell her that I'm leaving her. She tells me that she will make sure I never see my kids again if I do. She planned on using the fact that I had attempted suicide in high school to prove me unfit to have children. She continues to say that it was my fault for being so busy with work and stressed out that she just wanted someone she could talk to. Then she gives me an ultimatum to decide what I'm going to do, or she will decide for me. The neighbour's girlfriend starts defending the two of them, saying that it couldn't have been serious if they weren't having sex yet, and that my wife and I are too perfect together to let this break us up. The neighbours go home, and my wife and I argue for the rest of the night about what we are going to do. We go to bed separately, having not resolved anything. We kept going back and forth on the subject all weekend, and finally settle on we're going to separate temporarily while we figure out what we want. I was going to stay in the house, and she was going to take the kids and go to her mum's house. That Monday, I go to work and I get a text from her in the middle of a meeting with my bosses, stating that she had explained things to our kids, but that they were upset and I needed to explain it to them also. I get home from work to find my kids crying. She had told them that mummy had to move out because dad was mad at her. When my son wanted to stay with me, she told him that he can't. My son put it together that if mummy has to move out because I'm mad at her, and he must move out, then I must be mad at him too. My daughter was crying because my son was. I don't think she was old enough to understand what was happening. It was at that moment I realized she was going to drag the kids through hell if I left her. So I swallowed my feelings and begged her to stay. Jason goes on to explain that he remains with his partner for another year, obviously still haunted by his discovery. Besides catching her sending nudes to the neighbour 1 year later, and her claiming it was a mistake meant for him, there is nothing else to report. Here is the last segment of the post. Things have been quiet on that front for about 4 months now, but I still think about it constantly. This is going to sound stupid, but I feel like I have a part of my brain that I can't shut off, that is always thinking. I used to use that to solve programming problems, and it made me very good at my job. But ever since this incident, the only thing it thinks about is her and him, and if I did the right thing. My job performance has suffered, and I feel like I haven't gotten sleep in months. I'm afraid that after this much time, and the fact that I begged her back, that to say that I want a divorce now would only make her more vindictive towards my children and I just feel like I've put myself so deep in a hole that I can never get back out. I haven't really talked to anyone about this. I didn't want to talk to my mum about it because I felt she would treat my wife differently, and I didn't need the two of them fighting any more than they already do. I tried talking to one of my friends about it, but his advice was to put my trust in God. But that was not much solace for me as I'm an atheist, so I have no clue what to do with my feelings or how to move on from this. The post gained a lot of attention and was quickly flooded with Reddit users from all over giving their 2 cents on what Opie should do. Many were berating him for how he handled the situation, and most were urging him to get advice from a divorce lawyer. The story continued for a couple of weeks, with Opie replying to some of the comments as they came in. Jason would then end up making a second post on the 1st of November with an update on the situation. Instead of trying to fix something she doesn't want to fix, she has refused counselling several times in the past before this even happened. I'm going to get myself and my kids out. I meet with an attorney next week. Thank you everyone for helping me see how far I had my head up my ass. Most of the community celebrated the fact that Opie was finally standing up for himself and looked like he was going to get a divorce, ridding himself of this dreaded woman. Eventually, traction on the post died down, and it was believed that the story of Jasoninhell had been concluded.
Montgomery County 911, where's your emergency?
203 South Madison Street,
In what town?
Darlington.
Hey, what's going on there?
I just stabbed myself and I killed my 2 children.
You stabbed yourself and killed your 2 children? Okay, and what's your name?
Brandy Worley.
Brandy what?
Worley?
Okay. How do you spell your last name?
Worley.
And where are the children at?
In my daughter's room, on the floor.
In your daughter's room on the floor?
To the complete and utter shock of the Reddit community, it was discovered that Opie's wife had reportedly murdered their children. After being presented with the divorce papers, Opie and his wife had agreed to sleep in different rooms, and he told police he was asleep in the basement when the murders took place. The original post now became a hellstorm of anger and disbelief, getting even more attention than before. Redditors sent a wave of support and condolences to Jasoninhell, now identified as Jason Worley. The wife, now identified as Brandy Worley, was taken to Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis, where she was treated for self-inflicted injuries to her neck. First responders added that her demeanor was matter of fact, and she spoke without remorse when she admitted to the killing. The victims were confirmed as 7-year-old Tyler Worley and 3-year-old Charlie Worley. Seth Stultz, pastor at a nearby Congregational Christian Church of Darlington, said he came to know Tyler through vacation Bible school events every summer, fondly describing the 7-year-old as a hoot. He always was very excited when he was there, he said. He was just excited with a smile on his face. Police say the 31-year-old mother stabbed her children and reported deep lacerations to their necks. They were pronounced dead before the officers arrived at the scene. Suddenly, many of the comments on the original post became very real, many Redditors expressing deep guilt, taking on some of the blame for suggesting Opie seek a divorce lawyer. People were quick to dismiss these comments, however, because how can you predict such a devastating outcome would come to Opie's family? A GoFundMe was set up for the father, but the damage was done, and his post has gone down as some of the most infamous in the sub's history. It just goes to show the heinous acts that some people are capable of. Brandy Worley was sentenced to 120 years in prison, with no chance of parole. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. If you like true stories like this, I suggest you check out the video I made on 4 disappearances within a 60-kilometre radius, an ongoing investigation around the city I currently live in Melbourne, Australia. Thanks again for watching. Bye.